Hi everyone, thank you very much for coming. We're still waiting for some people to join our meeting. We'll start our discussion in a few minutes, so please be ready. While waiting, I would like to welcome our guest, Mr. Tom. Mr. Tom Wang, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Ah,
Sorry,
how
I
are
will
you?
probably keep the camera off for now because the bandwidth is not really that great.
Oh, all right. It's all right. It's okay.
Thank you.
Um, could you please try to share your screen, Tom? Probably, or do you want us to share your screen, or you want to share your own screen?
I can do it. Just to give me a second.
Okay, sure. We can try. Uh,
Is it working now?
yep, it is working.
Okay.
Do you want to try to? Okay, cool. Yes, it's very clear.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Tom.
All
You
right, of
can
course.
unscreen again. Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, distinguished speakers, moderators, and esteemed participants. On behalf of the Institute for Essential Services Reform, or IESR, I would like to warmly welcome all of you to today's webinar, which brings up the theme of the state of economic transformation in coal-producing regions, lessons from East Asia and Southeast Asia. We are truly delighted to have representatives from various organizations who share the same commitment and interest in advancing a just and sustainable economic transformation in coal-producing regions. My name is Benita Sasha, and I will be your Master of Ceremony for today's event. Our webinar today will begin with opening remarks, followed by presentations and discussion sessions with our invited experts. After that, we will have a Q&A sessions, and finally, we will close with a summary and conclusions. Before we officially begin the webinar sessions, let's take a quick group photo. I'd like everyone to turn on the camera so we can capture this moment together. Okay. Thank you very much. So 1, 2, 3, cheese, everyone. Okay, once more. 1, 2, 3, and cheese. Okay. Thank you very much for to all speakers and participants for the group photo. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Arif Rosadi, Climate and Energy Diplomacy Program Manager at the IESR, to deliver the opening remarks. Mr. Arif Rosadi, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our regional webinar. In this beginning opportunity, and before we jump to discussion, I would like to express our appreciation and gratitude to our distinguished panelists. The first is Tom Wang, Executive Director, People of Asia for Climate Solution. The second is Stephen Borner, Research Fellow, Stockholm Environment Institute, Asia. The third is Marta Jessica Mendrova, Social Policy and Economic Research Coordinator, IESR. The fourth is Ilham Surya, Environment Policy Analyst, IESR, as moderator. And the last is Bapak Togu Pardede, Director for Energy Resources, Mineral and Mining, Bappenas, who will join later. And I also to all participants who attend this webinar in this afternoon. In this COP30 moment, we would like to recall that climate change is already affecting our economies and communities. Floods, droughts, extreme weather, and crop failures. Even in a land cold region feel the impact, such as resource stress, infrastructure damage, health impact, and reduced productivity. Referring to that fact, climate crisis is no longer abstract. It shapes our daily realities. As follows, the world should increase its climate ambition that align with 1.5 degree of Paris Agreement target, as well as transitioning away from fossil fuel as mandated in COP decision. Today's discussion is not just about energy, but also about people, jobs, and the future of regional economics. In many coal-producing regions, including here in Southeast Asia, the interplay of coal economics and climate risk is become evident. For example, in Pasir Regency, East Kalimantan, the mining sector remains dominant driver of regional economy, limiting diversification and exposing the region to structural risk of global energy trend shift. Meanwhile, in Muara Enim Regency, South Sumatra, the agricultural land base is limited due to mining possession conversion, constraining alternative for local livelihoods, and making the region more vulnerable when mining boom or bust. Indirectly, climate impacts such as water scarcity or extreme weather pose risks to mining operation, transport infrastructure, worker health, and local communities, compounding the exposure of coal town and coal region. In short, coal-producing regions are at the intersection of fossil fuel transition risk and climate impact vulnerability. Given this double challenge, how do we move forward? A key concept here is the notion of just transition. We should ensure that as economic move away from coal or reduce dependence on it, workers, communities, and regions are not left behind. This concept has several key elements, such as economic diversification, rescaling and social protection, inclusive governance, policy and finance alignment, and environmental rehabilitation. All in all, just transition must ensure no one is left behind in the shift to cleaner economies. From best practice and lesson learned perspective, we see that Shaanxi province in China could be a good example of coal region transformation. The local government is implementing a transformation of the coal economy. For instance, in 2023, Shaanxi produced roughly about 1.37 billion tons of coal, about 29% of China total, and is now investing heavily in intelligent mining, mechanization, green job training, and clean energy deployment. It also diversifying its energy portfolio. Sangsi new clean energy install capacity share currently account for 46.5% at the province level. Strong government industry coordination and massive technology investment are key for its progress. From this region, we believe that transformation is possible, but it requires a vision, investment, and consistent policy direction. Based on that background, discussion and sharing information about the best practice, lesson learned regarding economic transformation in coal producing region across Asia would be important step to accelerate this agenda. From the idea into concrete implementation and contribute not only to tackle climate change but fulfill just transition aspect. To conclude, with momentum COP30,
Langsung diartikel. Yuk terus.
to conclude with the momentum of COP30, the message is clear. We must act now. I will stop here and hand over to Master Ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arif Rosadi, for your insightful opening remarks for today's webinar. Now we move on to the next agenda of this webinar, which is the presentation and discussion sessions. This session will be facilitated by our moderator, Ilham Rizkian Farisa Surya, Environmental Policy Analyst at the IESR, who will guide us through the discussions. I now hand over the floor to Ilham. Ilham, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, and our bespoke panelists. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ilham Surya. I'm an environmental policy analyst here at IESR, and I will be guiding our discussion for the next hour or so. And if any one of you will have any question, I would like to welcome you to write your questions in the chat column, and I will be reading it to our speakers. So without further ado, let me invite our first distinguished speaker. She's a social policy and economic research coordinator from IESR, Ms. Marta Jessica. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ilham, and thank you, IESR, for having me in this webinar. Hopefully you can hear and see me clearly, and I apologize if there's like a bad connections happening in the middle of my presentations. Okay, I think you can see my screen now. So, as Ilham just mentioned, my name is Marta, and in IESR, I do a lot of research regarding the social and economy and also policy aspect of energy transitions. So, in this occasion, I'm here to talk about the need for regional economic transformation in Indonesia, as our opening speakers already mentioned about the situations in coal producing regions such as Indonesia, where the coal dependence is affecting the vulnerability of the regions in regarding to this energy transition agenda. So this topic is very critical for Indonesia because right now we know that several energy transition policy frameworks is updating, and balancing the economic growth with the climate commitment is become a very important discussions, and we need to see how we can contribute to this just energy transition agenda. So before we dive into the economic transformations, let's start with this concept of a just transition. So theoretically, this just energy transition is based of four justice dimensions. I think most of us, or probably all of us, is already familiar to these dimensions. Consists of distributive justice, where the distribution and of benefits and risks is fair, and also the procedural justice, where the participation, the process of doing it is also incorporating and accommodating a lot of needs of peoples, and also recognition justice, where we acknowledge the vulnerable groups and existing structural inequalities within the agenda or the scope, and also the restorative justice, where we try to address the social and environmental issues or damage that already happening in the area. Although we have this as a fundamental theory, we need to understand that defining what is just transition is must be do collectively. So because it is probably differ from one stakeholders to another. So as a country in Indonesia, it's very important to have conversations on what is just transition for Indonesia and how it will be affects our geopolitical position within the region or also globally. And in IESR, we actually built definitions by combining those dimensions of justices and also with our research publications in impacted areas such as the CFPP areas, the renewable energy plants areas, and also the coal producing areas. So here, the goal of just transition, we believe, is to 1, address the existing issue, 2, to mitigate its potential problem, and also 3, to provide benefits and does not harmful to anyone. So those 3 goals are working towards a low carbon socioeconomic system. So the very important specific definition is here to move and shift from a carbon intensive socioeconomic to a lower carbon socioeconomic system. And doing that, we need to have at least 3 approaches here: economic transformation, social and political transformation, and also environmental preservation. And I'm not here to say that this is the only and the most right definition of just energy transitions, but I think IESR frameworks of this transition is can serve as a fundamental for our today's discussions. Because if we are looking closely to the coal sector right now, we can see that although we have a lot of pledge and commitment towards energy transition, we can see that the demand of coal in Indonesia remains high. And based on our study, we can see that the declining process is starting in the 2030. And this is in the POV of a coal mining region is very important timeline, because they need to be prepared of whatever are going to happen and how their lives going to affect because of this potential in declining of coal demand. Right now, we can see that 6% of Indonesia's GDP is coming from the coal mining sector, and it is have a high share in export value. It's like 17% of export value, and also the production is always increasing since the 2002 these days, and we can understand that although the majority of the share is actually sold to export markets. So domestically, we consume like around 20 to 40% of these coal productions. And also in the domestic market, our consumption is mainly for the power generations. So combining the energy transition commitment, the climate change commitment with today's reality, we can see that it is a very important sign for us to be prepared of these potentials in declining and everything. And I can say that also in the global market right now, people declining their coal consumption also because of their own climate commitment in their countries. So moving on from the high level reality, I would like to specify my presentation into like the coal producing region. Coal is deeply embedded in our economy right now. In many Southeast Asian countries, especially in Indonesia, coal is not only a source of energy for us. It is a source of income, a source of stability. So the potential or the vision of the mining of declining coal demand is a very important topic to discuss because right now we can see how the coal is really embedded into people's life in the coal producing region. In Indonesia, we have these two provinces called East Kalimantan and South Sumatra. We actually have a publication about those provinces published in 2023. So my presentation will be based on that research, where we can see that in the area, in the coal producing area, the GRDP is very high. The share is around 50 to 70% in two central regency of the two provinces. So it is in Muara Regency and also Pasar Regency in South Sumatra and also in East Kalimantan. And we can see the GRDP growth of coal mining itself is increasing rapidly over the past decade. And from our metrics of input-output, also we can see that the direct effect of income employment actually lower than other sectors in the area. That's all only because the fact that the mining sector is not a high capital. It is a high capital sector, not like a high employment sector. So I don't know if I still have time. Yeah, I do still have 5 minutes. Okay. So moving on from the macroeconomic condition, as I mentioned, the reality, the local employment in the mining area actually comes from the contractors or subcontractors or vendors. What I'm trying to say here is the formal sector or formal employment for the local communities is very limited in the areas. Mainly are employed in the permanent or like non-industrial type of job. So it's through contractors type of job or like a subcontractor or vendors. And from a lot of evidence and a lot of observations, we can see that the creation of informal sectors is driven by the increasing number of co-workers in the area. It is including the house rentals and also food stalls and also laundromat in the area. You can see pictures in slides based on our documentations in the area, and we can see that interestingly, we can observe a lot of artisanal mining in the area. So, and the fact that the small-scale mining, the artisanal mining, provide more job opportunity for people, for locals there across education level, ages, and genders. Just because the hiring process is not really that hard for them to access. So this observation is not really captured in the data, in the macroeconomic data, but we can see from our observations how important the coal mining industry role in beyond the industry itself, because the local economies remain closely linked to the mining activities itself. Other than that, we can also observe the local government revenue, because the local government revenue is also highly dependent to the mining industry. Based on our data here, over 20% of the revenue is coming from the royalty and taxes from coal mining, and most of local government expenditure is for the operational, for the official salaries, for example. So the declining of royalties and taxes from coal industry will be affecting their operational budget. And other observation, we can see how the environmental and social issues remains very important topics in the coal producing regions. We can see how the air and water pollutions have worsened since the beginning of the coal explorations. And also we can see a lot of social issues there, including the rising inequality and also the limited job of opportunity for local community, which also heighten the social context and social probably inequality there's also. I can talk more about this in the discussion session later, but I just would like to mention about these aspects and topics for our session today. So up to this point, we can say that the mining contributes largest in sectoral share in coal producing regions, but its impact occurs mainly through informal economic activities. And the decline in coal revenue would affect the local government operations, and we can see also the social and environmental challenge persists in the area. And also, in addition to that, our observations show that not all people are aware about this energy transition agenda, or understand how it will affect their lives. So, although right now we can see growing efforts and discussions, especially from the local government regarding the issue, but the fact that until now we can say that not all people understand how these transitions will affect their lives. So what is our recommendations? We can see that the economic diversification is the beginning or the starting point of a just transition, at least in coal producing regions. Why? Because we need to strengthen their local economics first. And doing this by focusing on the local competitiveness and local economic development, and also try to enable them by preparing the human capital, preparing the technology, and also the financing and governance aspects. And here where we can start it by first mapping the local economic development or local potentials, and also try to institutionalize the planning into the budget documents. I will stop my presentation there. So I'm very happy to share this, and I look forward to the discussion session. Thank you so much. Back to the moderator, Ilham.
Thank you very much, Marta, for the presentation on how embedded the coal economy is to the society in Kalimantan and in Sumatra to coal. And yeah, moving on, before we move on to our next speaker, I would like to remind audience here that we provide interpreter. So if you click on the application, we provide interpretation, and you click there, and we provide interpretation, translation from English to Bahasa Indonesia. Okay, moving on. Our next speaker has done extensive research on coal mining across Asia. His organization has also worked previously with IESR, where we produce a policy brief. So I would like to invite Mr. Stefan Bosner, the research fellow from Stockholm Environment Institute Asia, to present his findings. Time's yours, Stefan. 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation and for the opportunity to share our work. I hope you can all hear me well. If not, please speak up while I share my study. I see a thumbs up. That's very good. Next thumbs up, maybe. Can you see my screen? I think you can. So without further ado, let me just briefly give a short overview of what we have been doing. So my presentation, as Ilham already mentioned, will feature two, sources and knowledge sources. So on the one hand, we recently published a study about the justice element in energy transition pathways in the ASEAN region. So I will present on that. But interspersed, sprinkled over that, is some insights that we gathered collaboratively with the IESR 2 years ago in a comparative study in coal regions in Indonesia, Latin America, and South Africa. So the information comes from these kind of two projects. But I will mainly focus on and actually build on what Martha said, namely, how can we make energy transitions a little bit more just, and what does it mean to have just energy transitions. A brief, very short overview of SEI as a global organization. We are an international research institute and think tank. We have 8 centers around the world. Each center takes on a geographic specializations. For instance, in Asia, we are focusing on issues most relevant to the region here. And we are covering almost all aspects of sustainable development because we are project-based. Means everybody of us works on 6, 7 different projects at the same time. So our focus shifts. But for instance, energy transitions is one of our key research areas. SEI was one of the institutes that co-created the fossil fuel gap report, for instance. And here in Asia, we are trying to focus and understand the ASEAN region a little bit better. Now, the research questions for our study were actually twofold, the study that I will be presenting. It's what does justice actually mean in energy transition pathways? So for instance, when we did the research with IESR 2 years ago, especially on the subnational level, stakeholders sometimes they didn't fully understand what is just energy transition. Everybody talks about that, but there's no universally accepted definition. And it's not only limited to subnational entities, but also in conferences, right? There's also so many conferences and everybody speaks about just energy transition, but nobody bothers to explain, or few people try to explain it actually. So we thought about what does it mean and what kind of elements can we make out that make for a just energy transition. And once we had defined that, we looked at ASEAN policies and looked at how these kind of elements of justice are reflected in ASEAN policies. Now, a big caveat is we only looked at 8 to 10 policies per country, so we cannot claim to be comprehensive. We only looked at English-speaking policies, and especially in Indonesia, we found many policies using the International Energy Agency's database, for instance. We use this database to collect the policies. In Indonesia, many policies we found were in local languages. And we did not look into that because we didn't have the language capacity. That's, of course, a caveat, a gap in our methodology. And of course, just because something is mentioned in the policy does not necessarily mean it's also implemented, right? However, we would argue that the first step in endeavoring, journeying on the just transition pathway, I think, is good policy and good regulatory frameworks. And we simply try to understand how is justice reflected in these policies. Now, here's again the methodology we used: literature review, definition, policy collection, policy sample, and then we used an AI policy reader tool, which was based on ChatGPT but co-developed by our own researchers. We used the code to train the tool for a year, and we tasked the AI to extract some quotes from the policy documents looking for our indicators of justice. Now, again, I would like to emphasize that we didn't outsource our intellectual work to the AI. We didn't allow it to summarize the documents. We simply asked the AI to deliver us some quotes, some evidence that indicators of justice are reflected in policies. Now, here is our indicator framework, the JET-18 as we call it, and I want to emphasize that what Martha has been saying, of course, usually people think about the 4 dimensions of justice: distributional justice, restorative justice, recognition justice, and procedural justice. But we felt there have to be some more indicators than that. We try to be a little bit more specific, for instance. We looked for evidence about labor justice. I think very important, if we judge from Martha's presentation, how important it is that people who have employment now in the fossil fuel sector, I can then actually go and find employment somewhere else in the renewable sector, etc., etc. So we try to deconstruct those kind of indicators and elements of justice and try to be a little bit more specific. So we looked into the policies, we looked at evidence for labor justice, unemployment provisions, for instance, reset skill and capacity provisions, capacity building provisions. We investigated whether our policies in our sample even talked about green or renewable jobs. Energy justice, I think, in the region is particularly important because in countries like Laos, not everybody has access to energy. So we look at energy access provision in policies. The affordability of energy, I think, makes for a truly just energy transition. Environmental justice, we investigated whether policies speak about environmental protection, about land right recognitions of indigenous communities, for instance, about recycling, waste management, or, for instance, solar panels. Is this to be found in the policies? Same, we try to break down a little bit more the procedural justice and the recognition justice part. So for instance, and I think Martha mentioned that the importance of bringing stakeholders together, taking their visions, the diverging visions sometimes on board, and try to construct something where everybody agrees on. It's like multi-stakeholder dialogue, stakeholder feedback. Do policies allow for people to give feedback to the policy process, for instance? And we looked at that too. Recognition justice, what about local communities? Are their wishes respected? What about gender equality? Does maybe some policies speak to how energy transitions could actually foster gender equality? And what about environmental restoration? What happens to old mines when they become defunct or abandoned, so to speak? And then so the last two sections or themes of justice were like distributional justice, of course, spreading the benefits, as Martha mentioned, but also remuneration for energy, right? As I'm a person, if I build a solar power on my roof, can I feed this electricity back to the grid and can I reap some economic benefits, or is the system rather centralized where I cannot do that? Structural reform and others of market reform provisions in the policies that allow the market to become more liberalized, more flexible to attract more renewable energies. So this is our 18 indicator framework. You can find our study online. So if you want to follow up, you can get in touch with me or read our study. And then this is, so to speak, one of the results that we got. So we use this AI tool to scout for evidence of our indicators, and then we scored the indicators. We scored the indicator 0 if there was no mentioning of the indicator whatsoever, and we scored it 2 if there was a concrete, verifiable objective. And here on the top, you have all the indicators in this colorful scheme, so to speak. And then you have the country, and then you have the scores. Now, bearing in mind again, we don't claim comprehensiveness. On the contrary, only 8 to 10 policies. It doesn't give you a comprehensive view, but it gives you, I think, a notion, a first teaser of how policies reflect on justice. And the good news is that many policies actually take our indicators into consideration. The less good news is actually policies could be much more thorough in doing this. So for instance, here on the top left, we have LG, labor justice. And if you look at all the countries that we analyzed, only very few countries provide for unemployment benefits for people that become unemployed, for instance. And so this is actually quite concerning, especially in countries where many people, as Martha mentioned, depend on coal and fossil fuels for their livelihood. The same way restorative justice, here on the more right, RS, is less well reflected than hoped. Also recycling provision, land rights, all of these kind of issues are less well reflected than we hoped. And from the maximum score that we could attribute, not one policy scored more than 50%. Again, bearing in mind the very limited scope of the 8 to 10 policies, plus only English-speaking ones. So I'm sure there are more policies and more justice thinking in other policies, but in our sample, so for the first teaser, I think there might be ample room for improvement. Here is just another representation of the indicators. You can see here energy access is quite well represented, whereas other aspects, for instance, let's talk about diversity of vision in the more purple shades. not very well reflected in the policies that we analyzed. Structural reform, like provisions for community energy, right? So that citizens and people can group together, invest together in energy, renewable energy, and sell the energy then back to the grid, is not very well reflected. So there is some ample room for improvements, and these are the key takeaways from our study. So that, to our knowledge, the JET 18 framework is the most comprehensive one out there, because we try to get a little bit more into detail what just energy transition means. All the indicators are reflected, which is good, but there is room for improvement, and especially verifiable concrete targets are often lacking. Now, some suggestions for improvement, and here I bring it back to the coal theme of this kind of seminar, also building on what Martha said before. So of course, mine and coal power plant closures should be supported by dedicated funds for workers to cushion their job loss, and also to learn new skills and find employment in new areas, in new sectors, in new technologies, especially since, as we learned from Martha, employment sometimes is in very informal sectors. So we have to think about how to support and grab these people and lift them up once they become unemployed, or the industry they were depending on is no longer in existence. And we have these kind of examples around the world where dedicated funds are made available for people who become unemployed during the transition. Of course, as Martha mentions, and I won't go into detail because Martha and IESR are much more competent to speak to that, but fossil fuel regions need economic diversification. There are many strategies, and I think Martha pointed out how important it is that they are locally led. So like what makes sense locally, what makes sense in one country, in one region might not make sense in the other. But just some suggestions are like tourism, energy storage and renewable energy production. So we know in Germany, for instance, former coal mines use the shafts to store energy in a hydrological sense, for instance. We can think about innovation clusters, like many, like I don't know which region is in Germany, but they have developed, they abandoned coal mines there and the whole infrastructure, but built bio-based bioeconomy innovation clusters. But as Thailand, the country where I'm based, they are now currently building in the east of Bangkok a hub for biological, bio-based innovation. Of course, not every region can do that, but it might be a good opportunity to think about what to do with these kind of vast coal mines that are like land as well. So how can we use that? How can we attract new streams of revenue and new economic sectors that might be implanted there? Of course, in dialogue with the local population. Power market reform is essential to allow for more flexibility. So in the region here, sometimes the power systems are quite centralized, with one big player basically having almost a monopoly, not very conducive to allow renewable energies to produce energy and electricity. Citizen buy-in is very important, also via energy communities, so allowing citizens to band together, invest in renewable energies, or even manage local micro off-grids. And I think that's always a good opportunity. I completely agree with what Martha said before, is it raise awareness. So we need some policies that raise awareness amongst the common population, because some people don't even know what does just energy transition mean. They're not aware the governments plan on transitioning. So I think this kind of communication and making people aware is very important. And here I think I would also point out a study that the IESR has done about the improvements of governance. Like what kind of mechanisms do we need to have in place that, for instance, different ministries talk to each other better? Because right now we observed some silo thinking. We observed that the local national policies often don't trickle down to the subnational level, and so there are some barriers. So how can governance be more streamlined? How can governments facilitate the energy transition and not present a barrier like it is sometimes? And how can policy actually be implemented successfully and enforced? Because as I said in the beginning, just because there is a policy in place which might be super just, doesn't necessarily mean also it's implemented on the ground. So these are just some suggestions for improvement. I'm sure there's a lot of other things to do, but for the time being, I will yield my floor back to the moderator, and thank you for your attention. And here is our energy study that you can find on our webpage. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Stefan. for the presentation. And I would agree with you. The JET 18 would be the most comprehensive and rich definition and operational definition of just energy transition yet. So thank you for that, for bringing that to us. Okay. And I would like to invite to our distinguished participants, audience, to ask questions to our panelists, to our speakers through chat column. What's your question? What's your name? And what's your affiliation? And who do you direct your questions to? Okay. So we move on to our third speaker of the day. He is the Executive Director of People of Asia for Climate Solutions, or PACS, Mr. Tom Wang. Stage is yours, Mr. Tom Wang. You have 15 minutes. Mr. Tom, can you hear us? We can see that yours. Yeah, we have see your screen. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning. I do apologize. I cannot turn on the camera because from calling from a place with very limited internet. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's a little bit lagging and stuttering. But yeah, we can do our best.
Sorry. Yeah. So I will try to be slow and try to speak very clearly. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm calling from Rome, but I'm originally from Shanxi province. As Arif mentioned at the very beginning, Shanxi province is the world's largest coal producer. We produce almost 1.4 billion tons of coal. If you want to imagine how large that is, let's just compare that with the total coal production of Indonesia, which is 8 million tons. So basically, no, I think 800 million, sorry. So yeah, I mean, like basically my province produces almost twice as much as the whole of Indonesia. So that's where we are actually trying to address this same challenge. I think today the two key words for this webinar are one is co-producer. Indonesia and Shanxi province were all some of the world's largest co-producers. The second keyword is economy or economic transformation. So we are definitely talking about where these co-producers can make money, or how these major co-producers can make money without coal. So I will just be sharing some of the work that we are doing. This is very quickly an introduction of our organization. We're based in Manila and also in Shanxi province. So we have three major programs. One is a coal-free future. The second one is Belt and Road Initiative directed towards green energy, which addresses mostly about China's energy investment overseas, including in Indonesia. And the last one is climate actions. We focus on what people can do to promote climate solutions. So this is a picture of Shanxi province. My colleague took this picture. I think it just shows very clearly what happens in this province. As I said at the beginning, it's the world's largest coal producer. We have been China's major coal producer for the past 7 decades, ever since People's Republic of China has been founded. So coal trucks, because we're in a mountainous area, and coal trucks and railways have been the major ways for our coal to be exported or shipped to other provinces. At the moment, even today, our coal is shipped to more than 20 cities and provinces all over China. But at the same time, you can see right behind that coal truck, it's the mountains just covered in solar panels. And that's exactly what is happening in this province. So our province produces coal not for itself, mostly for China. In the past, as I said, 7 decades, Shanxi province has been producing a lot of coal. As you can see there, more than 19 billion tons of coal, and 70% of that each year is shared with other provinces. So that's the history. And at the same time, nowadays, still about 1/3 or 1/4 of China's overall coal is from Shanxi province. So we are the major supplier of coal for the rest of China. And you might have also heard about other major coal producers in China, such as Inner Mongolia or Shanxi province, or nowadays Xinjiang. However, in our province, it's quite different to the coal industry. First of all, as we can see, the history has been very long. So that means the whole province has been relying economically and also in terms of employment market. The province has been relying heavily on coal. And most of the coal mines are open pit coal mines. But in our province, the coal mines have been deep shafts, which is more labor intensive. So we actually rely
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we are I think we're losing Tom, but we'll give it a few minutes. Tom, have you been reconnected? Okay, we'll wait a couple more minutes. Tom, can you still hear us? Okay. All right. In the meantime, again, I would like to invite all of you to ask questions to our speakers, to our panelists through the call chat. I've seen a couple of questions popping up. I've also seen questions from YouTube. And yeah, I will be addressing these questions at the end of the speaker session. But yeah, again, I invited you again to ask as many questions as possible to enrich our discussion this afternoon. I've also been informed that Pak Togu has joined us. Good afternoon, Pak Togu. Can you hear us? Pak Togu from from Bappenas, Director of
Ya, halo Pak Adnan. Sorry, ya.
Ya.
Wait, just wait, Pak. Belum kan ya?
Ya, belum, Pak.
Ya, oke. Baru masuk, Pak. Thanks.
Oh ya, siap. Right. Thank you, Pak Togu. And I'll like to remind Pak Togu, we are in the middle of a discussion where one of our speaker, I think, has lost his internet connection. And our next speaker is you, Pak Togu. So while we are waiting our speaker to rejoin, we're waiting for you to present your presentation, Pak. So whenever you're ready, Pak Teguh. Thank you, Pak.
Okay. Can I just 3 minutes?
Sure, Pak. No problem.
3 or 5
No,
minutes.
sure, Pak Teguh. No problem at all. Okay. In the meantime, I would like to just ask one question from YouTube. The question is unclear, directed to whom? It's from Mr. Muhammad Saiful Fuad. The question is I paraphrase the question. Some people or some countries in the region do not see coal as a serious issue. However, coal causes very high pollution, as we already understand. So the question is, what can we do to help to reduce or move away from coal use? Despite some people or some countries in some regions do not see those as a serious issue. Probably I'd like to address this to Marta and Stefan. Marta first, probably, to address this question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question, Pak Muhammad Saiful Fuad. So, from non-coal producing regions in the both individual and community level, I think we can do a lot actually. Especially we can first acknowledge and try to indicate what's our position regarding this issue. So I would like just to mention about the raising awareness, the contribution in raising awareness. We can do a lot of works regarding this issue, both from individual level and community level. We can encourage our friends in our workplace, try to share them about this issue and the current news about the moving away from coal agenda or energy agenda. And other than that, we can also strengthen our contribution in using the energy efficiently, because right now in Indonesia we can see that and we understand that all of the infrastructure and also most of the source still coming from fossil fuel. So we can really see do much as a community about that, because we should rely to our government as a provider, but we can at least do those two actions in individual and community level. Thank you, Ilham.
Thank you. And Tom is already returning. So Stefan, I'll get back to you while Mr. Tom Wang is here. So I invite Mr. Tom Wang to continue his presentation. Thank you.
Shall I continue with my presentation, or I
Yeah,
can
sure.
answer that question just very quickly, which is also part of the presentation. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you so much. I can go back to the presentation, and I do apologize for this pretty bad internet connection. So yeah, I will just go very quickly to where I was. Okay. Also, to answer our participants' question about public awareness, I will go here actually directly. What we do in Shanxi is we did a public survey. We interviewed 9,000 people in the province, and one third of the people we talked to, so basically around 3,000, work directly in the coal industry, and one third of them are young people in their 20s or early 30s. These two target groups are very important because one group is directly affected by the coal industry or by the disappearance or the phase out of coal industry. The other group is important because once coal is no longer the major pillar for the local province economy, these young people might not really have a future. So the message here is they need to be prepared. So out of these 9,000 people, it was very interesting to hear that many of them have heard about energy transition in the province. They have heard about China's carbon emission peak and the carbon neutrality targets, which are all very, like macro and high-level words. However, when you dig in them into the survey, only about 30 to 40% of these people are prepared or they are confident that they are prepared to find new jobs or to create jobs or to get a new income source without coal. So this shows the kind of anxiety people have in Shanxi province. And I think that's exactly where we need to really reach out to other coal producer places as well, such as East Kalimantan and South Sumatra in Indonesia. So it's not that people are not aware. I think at this moment, people are almost pretending that it's not happening. So I will just go directly to another project that we have been doing. Is if you can see it beyond China part, is a coal-free future forum that we have been running every 2 years. The first one was in 2022, and then one last year, and the next one will be 2026. So we would really like to bring major coal producers or coal economies, meaning these local economies have been dependent on coal industry, just like Shanxi province, just like Indonesia, or especially East Kalimantan and South Sumatra, such as Colombia, Pakistan, South Africa. Bring them together to Shanxi province so that we can all discuss what kind of future we can have without coal, or how we need to prepare from today, from this very moment, for a future in, I mean, it could be 5 years, but it could also be 10 years, so that we can really start to plan different types of industries or sectors, or even tourism or agriculture. Or, for example, nowadays in my province, in Shanxi province, one major new industry is actually renewable energy industry, which is then related to the development a lot of the manufacturing, such as electric vehicles and also computing centers. People have heard of DeepSeek or like Tencent, or a lot of these giant technology or information technology companies do rely, or they need to get green electricity or green energy to support their computing centers. And our province is actually trying to build some of the largest electricity centers to support these computing needs from the IT giants. So the last before the end of my presentation is this message. This came out just a couple of days ago. In this year's first, from January to October, China's coal imports dropped 11%, and China is Indonesia's major coal export market. So this message, I said it to our colleagues last year from East Kalimantan and South Sumatra when they visited my province. When China stops or reduces its coal imports, Indonesia and Mongolia will be the very first countries to be hit by this disappearance of the major coal market. And that's why we need to be working together. And this is a picture we took last year. One of IESR colleagues who was in our province. And this was a solar farm right beside a highway. So to the left of this picture, it's just the cars going by, and a lot of them are e-vehicles. And this solar power station was actually supporting the charging station that used to be a gas station right beside the highway, but now it's an electricity charging station. So that's the kind of stuff we are trying to promote in Shanxi province. Because the pressure is coming from within the province, but also at the same time from China as well. I mean, China aims to achieve carbon emission peak by 2030. That also means starting in next year, China's coal consumption is going to drop quite dramatically. And we all need to be really well prepared for it. And I do hope that we will be able to see more of our colleagues and participants from Indonesia next year for the Coal-Free Future Forum. Thank you so much, and I do apologize again for such bad internet connection. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much, Pak Tom, for able to continuing the presentation and finding internet connection despite the circumstances. Again, thank you very much. I see some questions and discussion are already happening in the column chat, but yeah, we still have one more speaker. I invite Pak Togu Pardede, Director for Energy Resources, Mineral and Mining at the Ministry of National Development Planning or Bappenas. Pak Togu.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be here in the discussion with all the researchers around the world. Yeah, I just came back actually from Bandung, city of Bandung, from ITB, for the discussion conference related to transition energy. So I just arrived back to my office. That's why I need 5 minutes to prepare. Okay, but I listened some of the presentation while in car. Very interesting research from lesson from about the coal region and transform to other after mining, and also there is a from SEAI from AI learning, but I'm sorry I didn't listen full of the researcher. So I think if it's possible, I would like to also if you like to share all of your research, that may be good for us. Of course, for our office, our office, Ministry of National Development Planning, is responsible for the prepare the development plan, national development plan. So for the long term, 20 years, and also for the 5 years plan. So Bappenas, our office, is responsible of that. So that's why I think what you share for is very important to us. Okay, so I will, of course, I will share about how the Indonesia country, in the national perspective, for integrating just transition into Indonesian development planning. So as I mentioned, we have a 20 years plan. Okay, next slide. In the 20 years plan, it is we call RPJPN. Yeah, okay, thank you. In the RPJPN in 2045, actually we have a game changer that are the, we call 5 transformation. So one of them is economic transformation. So I think the just transition, it is also part of the economic transformation. The other transformation is social transformation, governance transformation, and then on under the three transformation we have what we call foundation of transformation, that is the supremacy of law, stability leadership, and socio-cultural and ecological resilience. In our long-term plan, actually we already also put the just energy transition in the plan. Green economic implementation policy is based on the implementing of low carbon development, which includes energy transition. Okay, and then also just energy transition by providing new skills, job opportunity, including developing ecosystem and incentives, especially for the fossil fuel, for producing areas and so on. Okay, next slide. So next slide is about, okay, still it is about our 5 years plan under our new president Prabowo. So this 5 years plan is the first 5 years in the 20 years. So in the first 5 years, it is very important because we put the foundation for our Indonesia, as we call the golden years of Indonesia 2045. So in our middle term 2025-2029, we have targeted a very high economic growth, which is 8% by 2029, and then but the growth also not only high but also inclusive and sustainable, which is actually very hard. We just discussed this morning with the perspective of the private, so they think we need to have a miracle of this, but we have cita-cita, aspirasi or wish for the 8%. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. Still in the 5 years plan, what our important in our 5 years plan? We have we call three Sula pembangunan, which is 3 main strategies. Sula is I cannot explain it. It's like Sula.
Trident.
What is it?
Trident.
Oh yeah, trident. So the first is poverty. In every program in our country, every project, we have to have a trident. What the first one is poverty, for the poverty reduction, and the second one for improving human resource quality, and the third one is for the sustainable growth. So we analyze every project for these three kind of important strategy. How big this project for the sustainable growth, sustainable economy, and how many human improving the quality, and also how many poverty reduction is reduced by this project. Okay, next slide. And also in the 5 years medium term plan, this is back to long term. Okay, next slide. This is also long term. Okay, come back again. So in the 20 years plan, the first phase, which is our 5 years plan 2025-2029, is preparing the foundation and the strengthening. And the second 5 years for the implementation and commercial scale up, and the third phase, low carbon energy expansion, and in the stage 4, the last stage is technological consolidation and independence. Okay, next. I will explain for the 5 years next. Yes, this one. So, especially in energy sector, in our midterm plan, in our new president Prabowo, in the energy sector, this is all the issues, challenge, and what are the main goals? The main goals for the energy sector is to improve the energy security and then increase energy supply, expanded access and coverage, and utilization of clean energy. This is three main goals of energy in our 5 year plan. And what are the highlight intervention or priority activities? The first activity is to increasing energy supply, expanding across access and coverage of the energy services, and the third, strengthening the implementation of the just energy transition. So again, just energy transition is very important in our 5 years development plan. Okay, next one. The next slide, please. And in the 5 years plan, what are the policy direction? Of course, acceleration of utilization of new and renewable energy, including nuclear, industrial decarbonization through the use of renewable energy, and the intensification of biofuel utilization. So, okay, in this 5 years plan, we call project national strategic project. This is a very strategic project where my office under the president mandate, president give a mandate to the office for the preparation and then also for the controlling the strategic project national. And some of the project strategic national is also related to the renewable energy. And then one of course, if we see there is several project here, like in the large scale solar power plant maybe, or CCS, CCUS, or green sustainable industrial zone. In every project, each project, we have to calculate how impact on the poverty, or how impact on the human resources, and then also the economic development in this surrounding area. So we hope with this PSN or Project Strategic National, we can achieve the three main goals of our development. Okay, the next slide. Okay, now we move to, this is still in energy. Okay. Yeah, this is just, okay. Maybe we better move to the energy transition. So we learned already about just energy transition that must fulfill the three key aspects: social, economy, also environment. And then, so it means that the green energy or the energy sector should clean, but not only focus on emission reduction or achieving environment, but also take into account the people's well-being and the economic sustainability. So I think this is the energy transition means. So next slide. Why just energy transition? Yes, I think Indonesia needs to ensure the benefit and risk of the more sustainable future are shared, equitable, and that the transition is managed in such a way that it does not exacerbate existing economic inequality. Yeah, I think also the global energy transition agenda has led to a potential decline coal. Okay, wait. I think the energy transition, just energy transition, it is bring both risk and also opportunity. Yeah, so we have uh, to know about that, and then therefore the energy transition must be managed fairly to ensure that its benefits and risks are shared equitably and do not exacerbate economic inequality. That's what we have to do. Next, in Indonesia, maybe the first presenter already mentioned about a case that just transition energy or impact on the local economic development. We have to apa? This is also the issue we have not ready maybe, and then also the issue that not sustainable, yeah, because like mentioned, the GSR only stop in a certain time, but after that we don't know the after that. So the global energy transition agenda, yes, led to the potential decline in the coal demand across country. Yeah, I think this situation requires the government and various stakeholders to prepare, especially the coal production region and local workers to face the upcoming changes. In this regard, our office, Bapenas, collaborate with the development partner to support local governments in preparing for the energy transition in the coal sector, ensuring that the process can minimize risk and for affected regions and the community. Yeah, okay, next slide.
Excuse me, Pak Teguh, you have 2 minutes left. Thank you, Pak.
2 minutes ya, oke.
Yeah, thanks.
Jadi mending saya hapus aja ini ya, slide-nya ya. Ya belum sempat. Oke, terus next, this is lesson to the coal region in the example in the Kalimantan. Kalimantan, is Kalimantan our new capital city. You all have to be there. This is all the people rely on the mining. So and then maybe in the future they have to change to other economic activities because there is a new capital there, and then there are 2 big cities around there. I think this is become our new center of development in our big Indonesia. Yeah, the Kalimantan Island is in the middle. Yes, you know, before Java, concentrate development in Java. So I think we can prepare better in Kalimantan, because yeah, we are now have this capital city. Okay, next, and then for we explain another case in Sumatra. In Sumatra Island, this is also coal. This is, you can see also the real example how the post-mining economy transformation through a just energy transition approach. The economic transformation demonstrates how the former coal mining regions can shift toward a new economy based on tourism and also vocational education. So we built the vocational training center there on the underground mining, and then also we have a tourism destination in this area. And then also one of the World Heritage of the UNESCO is the coal underground mining in the Sawalunto. So I think this is also example how we can transform from the coal mining and become a World Heritage and then become a destination of tourism. And then the last one, slide 14. Yeah, this is, you can see the evolution of the city, the Sawalunto city. Next slide. Okay, this is the key success of the regional transition and development. Yeah, we can see from the past lesson, Sabalonto, but also we can see in the future, yeah, how the East Kalimantan will transform, yeah, from the whole people there and then to the new capital, I think, economic development there. And then what is the important factor? The investment in education and research, the economic diversification, infrastructure development, revitalization, and public-private partnership. This is happened in Sawalunto. We invest the education and vocational research center in the Sawalunto. We diversify the economic to tourism. We build the infrastructure and then public partnership. Yeah, there also. Okay, last slide. Okay, the next slide. Of course, there is a important collaboration. Yeah, the collaboration is the key of this just transition, the implementation. Okay, thank you very much. Makasih, Pak.
Thank you very much, Pak Togu, for the insightful presentation on very thorough planning. We're starting from long-term development planning, medium-term development planning, and short-term development planning, and cases, examples of successful economic diversification across Sumatra and Kalimantan.
But is Kalimantan not still not sit?
Oh yeah,
not listen. But
yeah.
But in Sawalunto is already happened. But in the East Kalimantan is our plan.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you, Pak Togu, for correcting me. All right. So thank you very much for our four insightful speakers. Now allow me to move on to our next agenda, which is discussion and questions and answers. Despite I've seen some very thoughtful discussions happening in the chat column, I still would like to bring these discussions verbally to here. And probably going back to the very first question that I asked earlier to Stefan first earlier about despite some people thinks that coal is not a big issue, despite it's obviously bringing some environmental consequences. How do we address that? Martha has given us her answers, but what do you think, Stefan, about that question?
Well, I think, especially in countries like Indonesia, there's always a trade-off between economic development and environmental impacts. I mean, the science is clear since 100 years that coal has some very negative impacts on the environment and our health. And if we talk about what can people do, how can we maybe convince them or inform them? It's just like this kind of trade-off that I guess humans face between short-termism and long-termism. And in the short term, yes, you might gain employment and you might gain revenues from coal, but in long term, respiratory diseases. I forgot the number, but in the ASEAN region alone, 10,000 of people die prematurely of respiratory diseases, for instance. If people die prematurely, they cannot contribute to the economy and cannot create wealth for the whole economy. How much is a polluted environment worth? What is the negative economic implications? We've heard from the representative Papinas that we have now a UNESCO mining site, for instance, which is a very nice thing to do. But in other aspects, mines, they destroy biodiversity, they pollute our environment, which also carries an economic cost, especially in the long term. So if a person thinks that coal might not be a bigger problem, then I would say yes, it might seem in the near future, it seems more beneficial. But if you calculate all the negative impacts also economically, then the bill adds up. And I would argue that it's much more expensive to continue as it is than if you take action, phase out. Doesn't have to be or can't be from tomorrow, this kind of phase out. But I would argue that the economic costs, if you factor in like pollution, premature deaths, etc., are way, way higher than if you transition, I would argue, in my reflection. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Still for you, Stefan. Two interesting questions on the framework and methodology, which of course you have read and you have replied. But anything else you would like to answer? Because some of our audiences are from YouTube, which might not be able to access or see the questions. Please.
Yes, happy to do that. So we had two questions. Like one was more methodologically speaking. So one question was how we define our indicators. And I linked our study in the chat where we hopefully describe well how we define indicators and what kind of prompt we used to incentivize the AI tool to give us some quotes. So for instance, of energy access, we simply asked the AI tool, hey, can you please find evidence in this document which mentions energy access for citizens of the country? Affordability, we asked then the AI tool, can you extract some quotes which talks about the affordability of energy and electricity, and how affordable energy is a concern, for instance. What our experience was with the AI tool, it sometimes even found some quotes that we would have overlooked if we just simply put a search in a PDF document, for instance. So, but how we define the indicators is hopefully clear in our study. Then there was another interesting question, how we came up with this kind of 18 indicator framework. It was based mainly on literature review, on other experts and our own expertise, but one person helpfully suggested that maybe it could be enriched by having a sort of feedback loop built into that. So maybe collaboratively with people on the ground, elaborate a justice framework, which was not possible with the resources that we had at the time. But we are planning on doing a follow-up study, and the follow-up study can go into many directions, for instance, being more thorough, honing in onto one indicator specifically. And I thank the person for the reflection that maybe building an indicator framework more collaboratively would also be a good idea. But right now, it is basically our own insights gathered from desk review. But we invite other colleagues and researchers to criticize it so that we can have it more robust, because that's how science works. And then we had one reflection again about the definition, how we define distributing the benefits, for instance. So we have two definitions. We have one that citizens are allowed, or people are allowed to feed and sell electricity back to the grid, therefore benefiting from having solar or wind installed in their backyard, so to speak. And then there was one question about land rights, how land rights and indigenous communities are reflected in the policies. And for our quite limited sample, land rights is indeed one of the indicators that is very badly reflected in policies. So very few policies mention that, suggesting again, this is a dimension of justice which is less well thought about or less thoroughly thought about in transition policies in the ASEAN region. But again, very small sample, but land rights indeed is a gap, so to speak. I think these were the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I tend to agree because looking at policies, we rarely get directly that it's policy about just transition. It's policy about something else, which incidentally or not has the transition attributes. So that's sometimes what's happening in collecting such policies into databases. But thank you again, Stefan. Next question is I think it's not directed to anybody, but I hope Pak Togu can answer. The question is from Sinoma Development Indonesia. The question is, what is the best financial model to improve our community, especially CNI? CNI, I think it's commercial in industry, probably, to gain more awareness about using solar PV as an alternative or a main energy source. Yep, despite this is a little bit different from the topic, but maybe Pak Togu can answer it, Pak, in Indonesia, how to, what business model to encourage commercial and industry to use solar PV?
Ini Indonesia ya mungkin ya.
Ya, Pak.
Untuk solar PV, ya kita upayakan memang berbagai pembiayaan yang mengupayakan supaya bisa dilakukan oleh swasta begitu. Dan mungkin ada peraturan yang baru ya kemarin baru keluar dari yang saya lupa, tapi itu ada lebih mendukung lah upaya-upaya renewable energy ini bisa dilakukan. Kemudian juga nanti kita akan melakukan perubahan revisi terhadap undang-undang atau PP renewable energy tersebut. Terus mengenai pembiayaan, apa tadi Pak? Istilahnya tadi
Bisnis model, Pak.
Bisnis model
CNI, ya.
CNI
Ya.
itu ya.
Ya.
Iya ini bisa diperjelas nggak ini? Kira-kira pertanyaannya?
Iya, mungkin Pak Sinoma Development Indonesia.
Saya Sinoma.
Yeah, mungkin maybe while waiting for
Yes.
Sinoma Development, but thank you again, Pak Togu.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. The next questions are directed to Marta about. It seems that since 2022, the exports have been decreasing while domestic use has increased. Could you share the reasons behind this trend? To Marta, please, Marta.
Yes, so actually the participants, I forget their names. Peichao is already also have a follow-up questions regarding the questions and already answers in the chat room. But generally, the global energy trends is declining because of their in-country commitment towards energy transitions. But regarding our domestic coal consumption in Indonesia, it is still continues increasing because the coal remains our main source of energy for electricity generations, both off and on grid. And also we can observe the increasing demand from industrial sector for coal, especially to achieve the new target of economic growth of 8% that already mentioned by Pak Togu previously. So right now we have a lot of agenda and activities and missions regarding the industrializations, and those agenda actually also affecting our demand, our coal domestic demand in industrial sectors. For example, for the heating and also for smelting and other processes in industrial. I think worth to mention some several industry that are still rely on coal these days. For example, the cement industry and also like the nickel processing industries. Yeah, I think those reasons. Those are the reasons why we see the increasing consumptions especially in domestic consumptions in Indonesia, because of the electricity generation and also the industrial demand.
Thank you, Marta. I hope that answers your question. The following two questions are directed to Tom. The first question is about China in general, as it's still amongst the largest contributor to GHG emission globally. So what's the effort in China to reduce emissions? And the next one is a little bit more specific. The question is directed to Tom again from Marini, the Regional Development Planning Agency. So it's the subnational level of Bappenas called Bapeda of South Sumatra province, which is a large producing region. Her question is, when did the Shanxi province start first transition from coal to renewable energy? And what's the preparations, what the roles of subnational provincial government? And as it requires a large amount of capital, how much investment is needed to start the transition? And what are the options to gain that investment? Tom, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I will go directly to the second question first. It's very difficult to say how much investment is required altogether. What we can say now is coal industry has been contributing more than 40% of the local revenue from all industries, and also more than 70% of the industry taxes. So that's a huge amount that no other one single sector could ever be able to just fulfill easily. So that's why back in 2019, Shanxi province produced this policy called from 1 to 8. I had it in the presentation, but I didn't have time to touch on that part. So from 1 to 8 policy refers to 1 means the single or solo reliance on coal economically. 8 is just a figurative speech, meaning multiple sectors. So literally that means from coal reliance to economic diversification. I think that's the word many of our presenters, speakers have mentioned, and that is exactly what we're talking about here today. So for example, this 8 could include, as I was saying, renewable energy. It could also include even hydrogen, green hydrogen, or at the moment in Shanxi province it's mostly gray hydrogen. And some of the participants who came over to Shanxi from IESR or from Indonesia actually visited some of the gray hydrogen producers from coal. And some of these new sectors could also include tourism or agriculture, or, as I said earlier, computing center. So many of these are all, I have to say, at the moment, just quite desperate efforts local province is making. So it's difficult to say there is one well-organized or well-coordinated scheme or program to say this is this much investment that Shanxi needs to shift away from coal reliance. To be very honest, I don't think Shanxi is completely clear or determined to leave the coal addiction very fast. There isn't a very clear timeline for Shanxi province yet to completely phase out coal or even phase down coal. Because besides that, from 1 to 8 policy, there is another strategy or political strategy, which is to treat coal as raw material rather than fuel, which means very ambitious development of coal chemical industry. And that's just as concerning as coal burning as well. So I think we're not really talking about Shanxi as a success story at this moment. We're talking about Shanxi as an experiment. But definitely there are a lot of lessons and also a lot of new pathways or roadmaps that could become either important lessons or experiences for other heavy coal producers to share. And that's exactly why we are doing this Coal-Free Future Forum every 2 years, so that we bring all the coal producers from around the world can just together in Shanxi and then share the lessons. Of course, Europe has offered quite important experiences for China as well, but at the same time, it is quite difficult to copy from the European style too. That's also why at the same time we are calling for something very, very Chinese style, or we say just energy transition with Chinese characteristics, right? Everything is like socialism with Chinese characteristics. Here in China or in Shanxi, we're also calling for something called Jet B. Instead of Jet P, partnership, we're calling for brotherhood. Because in the past 40 years, at least since the late 70s or early 80s, China has been quite successful in elevating poverty or in spreading or improving the literacy rate in China, because it has been bringing a lot of the resources from richer coastal provinces such as Jiangsu province, Zhejiang province, Guangdong province, or even Shanghai to the inland places like Shanxi province or Gansu province, where resources are way more limited, either natural resources or financial resources or policy resources. So in this way, we're hoping that China can again mobilize its very strong internal coordination mechanism, and then have some of the more developed provinces to support the coal-heavy provinces to achieve carbon emission, carbon neutrality at the same time, instead of like treating provinces separately. I hope that answers the second question. And then when it comes to the first one, to be honest, I don't remember what the first question was, but I was going to go back to that real button to move public conception or public perception about coal. I think besides policy, employment is definitely a very key button, because like in the future, coal industry cannot really hire that many people anyway. So I mean, like for the general public, their top concern is probably a job. But anyway, yeah. So if you can remind me of the first question, I can probably very quickly touch on that too.
Yeah, the question in general is how does China decarbonize, reduce their emission footprint?
Sorry, how does China
reduce GHG greenhouse gas emissions in general?
In general, I mean, China hasn't achieved the carbon emission peak yet. So it's too early to say China has been reducing its carbon footprint or carbon emission. China hasn't. China is on the way to reach the peak. But at the same time, definitely renewable energy has been the way. China produced a renewable energy law back in 2005, so more than 20 years, well, about 20 years ago. So with this law, the renewable energy industry has been happening rapidly, as everybody can see now. China is not just the biggest manufacturer, but also the biggest country to install renewable energy. But also at the same time, China is putting a lot of money into the research and development and also investment overseas. So absolutely, renewable energy has been helping. But at the same time, a real big concern is that China's energy consumption has been also growing so rapidly. That means at the same time, while renewable energy installation has been growing, coal installation has also been growing in terms of absolute number. Yeah, I mean, like it's too early to say greenhouse gas emissions has been reduced. It's not.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tom. That's a very clear answer. Right. I'm aware of the time. Probably I would like to ask one more question and another round of closing statements from each and every one of our panelists. So the question is, has Indonesia, sorry, the question is addressed to Indonesia, so probably naturally Pak Togu or Marta can answer. The question is there any interest from Indonesia using transition credits for early coal closure? Transition credits have just transition elements built into the crediting. So I wonder if it's seen as having potential. So it's financing side of things. Maybe Pak Togu first, and also your closing statement while also answering that question, Pak Togu.
I'm sorry, Pak Ilham. Can you repeat the question?
The question is whether it's about financing, Pak. Whether Indonesia is interested in using transition credits for early coal closure.
Yeah. Yes. I think this is important ya for our coal closing itu ya. And then we will close our first coal power plant maybe in 2030, 2035, something like that. This so 10 years from now. And then this is for the power plant. And of course, in our near our new capital, you can see many coal mining there. Many people rely on the economic for their daily life. And then, yeah, I think also for the company there, I think we need first a study for the transition for those case, for the power plant, for the company of the mining, and also for the community. Yeah, of course, in the future, I think we really need that dukungan support for the coal transition for the
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Pak Teguh. Marta?
Yeah, just a little bit additions to what Pak Teguh already mentioned. I think a lot of financing instrument is very important for Indonesia right now because we have a huge financing needs in order to achieve the just energy transitions. And regarding the specific instrument on transition credits, I think it is also potentials and a type of financing that we can see in Indonesia, but we still need to strengthen and improve the enabling environment for these schemes to actually happen in Indonesia. We need to have a more clear policy instrument. We do have a related policy such as the carbon markets instrument in Indonesia, but we didn't really have a clear guidance, especially a clear guidance to calculate the numbers of the carbon emission its price and how to do the trade like that. So before going to the other type of financing schemes, we need to first have a stronger financial policy framework and instrument regarding this type of financing. So that's just a normative answer from my side actually, because we can see how the discussion on financing is actually progressing day by day currently, especially in COP30 right now. We have a lot of discussion on carbon markets and other type of financings. So we see it as a potential, especially as you mentioned, this financing mechanism has these just transition principles within them. But as I mentioned, we need to establish a stronger enabling environment first to have this specific mechanism happen in Indonesia. So yeah, that's my general and normative answers to that, and we need to see how the government actually try to finance this just transition agenda. And to just close the session, because I think Ilham asked us to share the closing remarks, I would like to say that from our perspective in IESR, we believe that energy transformations is highly collaborative actions. So we need to think within our organization or our community, what can we do? And we also need to discuss about those type of contribution and try to understand how we can share resources, how can we share knowledge and everything just to make the actions become stronger and stronger. So thank you for the time, and back to Ilham.
Thank you very much, Martha.
Pak Ilham, one more. I
Sure. Yeah.
So I just mentioned for the company call, for the community, and then for the power plant. But one more important, the local government or the provincial government, they will get lower revenue, yeah. They will reduce all the local revenue, and then yeah, what happened next? Maybe after next 20 years, they will have lost all the revenue income for the apa itu for the royalty or for apa yeah, income lah, something for the from the revenue sharing fund, something like that. So what is the most important is we have to support those local government, yeah, or the local to have what kind of the investment they have to build, or what the development they have to develop, yeah, while they have still a big money, yeah. So because after that they will lost that revenue. So we should help them maybe to build school, university, or I don't know, with maybe the other sector. So when the from revenue from the coal or mining stop, they have the economic development still good. So we need to because you see in Papua they have a lot of sharing fund, but they don't they don't use the money very well. So I think we need to support to assist them what kind of investment or what kind of project they have to build there while still have our money. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak Teguh. I couldn't agree more with you. I agree. Maybe while we're still with you, would you like to share your closing remarks, Pak Teguh?
Closing remarks again. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe thank you to all of you, and I think we learn a lot from your research and from other countries. So this is the challenge not only for Indonesia but also every in the world. So I think we should still collaborate, yeah, and support each other to have the future, yeah, for these countries or for the world. And I think agree we have to move, yeah, from the for the future more green, more clean. So I think we hope that Indonesia in the 2045 we can see Jakarta with the blue sky and then with the river also blue and the trees many green. So now in my window I see Jakarta not blue but gray because almost rain. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Teguh. Stefan, your closing statements.
In the interest of time, just very briefly, I think energy transitions, when we talk about justice and inclusivity and including stakeholders, I think it's not just a good to have, it's very important, because if people have the impression that something is decided over their heads, or if people are not informed, they will oppose it, and we see this kind of green backlash in Europe. So I think it's again a preemptive thing to ask people about their opinions, about what they want, where they want to go. I think the more we can take this on board, the more successful the energy transition will be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tom, are you still with us? I see you are saying thank you. I hope you're still here.
I am. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
yeah.
having me. And
Yes.
it's great that we have again, like started this discussion. And I again just offer my most sincere invitation to all the colleagues from Indonesia to come and join us with the Coal-Free Future Forum next year in China, in my province.
Thank you very much for our all distinguished speakers for the very insightful and delightful discussion. I thank you again, participants, to ask very delightful questions as well. I apologize if I have stated wrong things. I give back to the Master of Ceremony, Benita. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much to all participants for the excellent questions, and to our speakers and moderator for the engaging sessions. A heartfelt thank you to our speakers, Pak Togu, Stefan, Tom, and Marta, for their invaluable contributions, as well as to our all attendees for your participations and engagement. Before we reach the end of this webinar sessions, I remind everyone to fill in the feedback form on the chat box or by scanning the following QR scan posted on the slide. Thank you. And as we approach to the end of today's webinar, I would like to thank all of you for your active participations. We hope that today's exchange has provided valuable insights and strengthened collaborations among us. We look forward to staying in touch and continuing this important dialogue. We encourage you to stay connected and continue the conversations and apply the knowledge gained today. On behalf of the Institute for Essential Services Reform, we truly appreciate your time and participations. We look forward to seeing you at our future sessions. Have a great day, and thank you everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. 8%, yeah?
Yeah.